republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, concealed carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the war room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Echols.
And I am back once again. It is a Sunday morning, and I am tucked away in the war room somewhere in the high desert of southern Idaho. And I woke up this morning, and I'm still kind of decompressing. I'm still kind of trying to get warm. I hope everyone's doing well. We had a pretty cold and a pretty windy day yesterday, and it happened to be, I think, probably one of the coldest days that we've had so far this winter. So I'm really not complaining because it's been pretty mellow here. In fact, we still don't really have any snow. I mean, it shows up and it's gone within like a day at the longest. But yesterday, I had a permit class, the first permit class of the year. And sure enough, it's going to be the coldest permit class that I've had so far yet this winter. I think the temperatures are right around 28 to 30-something degrees, and the wind was probably blowing. It was probably gusting at about 35 miles an hour. And I had about 12 people in my permit class, and they did really good. Like I'm going to say it was halfway miserable outside. It really was. But you know what? They showed up. We did the classroom portion. We made it out to the range, and we made it through. Now, we took lots of breaks, and if you've ever taken a class with me, you know that I'm very anti-gloves when shooting. I'm not anti-gloves on an experienced shooter in a different class, but the permit classes where we have such a wide variety and a wide range of experience levels and students that I'm like, put gloves on in between when you're shooting and you're not shooting, right? You're in that when you're not shooting, but I don't want to see gloves on the hands of a shooter in that class, because new shooters, they tend to, not grip the gun correctly, because that's what we're working on. You have to be able to feel the gun to do that. Once you can perform all those fundamentals, then you can put those gloves on. Then you can work with it at that point. And a shout out, I had a student yesterday. She was an older lady, and she had really bad arthritis, and the cold was just kind of kicking her butt. And she was unsure if she was going to be able to actually make it through the class. Now, she started off bringing a 22, I don't know which model or what brand it was, but it was a 22 revolver, a little snub nose thing. And granted, you think, that's not going to have a lot of recoil, but if you don't have the strength there, and on top of it, you got pretty bad arthritis. And then on top of that, it's really cold. That revolver is going to kick your butt. It's going to take a lot of strength to press that trigger. It's going to take a lot of strength to grip it properly and not let that the recoil of that snappy little short-barreled revolver. And yeah, a 22 caliber in a revolver is still going to have some snappy recoil to it. Everything's got to be good for you to be able to manage that. Her husband got a hold of me. Texted me the day before, said, I don't know if my wife's going to be able to make it through. And I said, well, just bring her anyway, and we'll work on it. I've got different things to try. And I talked with him, and when we got her out on the line, she didn't want to shoot her revolver. So we put, you guys have heard me talk about it before. We put her in her hands. We put a Taurus TX22. And she was able to work that really well. The only thing that, James was down there helping, Magnum was down there helping her. She was on his end of the table. That we had to do is she loaded for quite a while. She would load her own magazines. But then it was just like taking a toll on her. And we knew that there's no way she could. And they're not, the magazines are hard to load, but when you can barely move your fingers and hands anyway, we knew that was going to be just a bit too much for her. And so I gave Magnum the okay to help. She's already demonstrated that she can load a magazine. She did for about the first 25, 30 rounds. And I was like, you know what, let's just load her magazines for her at this point and have her shoot. Now, we did stop. We typically stop about 50 rounds, and we take a break, especially during the summer when it's hot, more if needed. Well, it was cold, so we took breaks, mandatory breaks at this point. Sent everyone in the classroom where the heat was cranked to warm up, to get the good, the blood flowing again. I don't want anyone to get hurt, to drop a gun, have numb hands, whatever. I want everyone to have a good, safe, and enjoyable time. And I tell you what, I thought people were going to kind of complain about all the breaks. I mean, I didn't really care. But I thought they were going to kind of complain about those breaks, but they didn't. And in all actuality, what it allowed, and I really liked this. What it allowed for was people had time to ask questions. We just went in the classroom and hung out and talked, and people asked questions, and which led to some really good discussions, right? And that was real enjoyable, and that's what this class is all about: is getting out the information, helping you feel comfortable to ask those questions that you have, so you can continue to learn and grow in the process. And so I really did enjoy that, and I'm trying to think now of some of the conversations that we had. We had questions about defensive ammo. What should I carry as far as defensive ammo is concerned? Should I carry hollow point? Should I carry something that exactly matches to the T what the law enforcement carries? And so we got into those discussions, which was a really good discussion. And we're going to get to that actual discussion later on one of the other podcasts that I do. I mean, the same podcast, but one of the other days that I do a podcast. So I don't want to get into it too far here. But we had another question come up. Someone was asking about lasers. Now and they still make these, but back in the day, one of the big things was, you don't see them much anymore, but were these Crimson Trace lasers. There was I think Laser Guard had one. A lot of them had it. And they did lasers. If you're not familiar with, I'm sure you are, that you put them on the grip. So when you pick up the gun, and you actuate that grip and give that grip pressure, a laser shoots out, like a red laser beam. I think they might have had green as well. And you do have to align that with your sight still. There's a parallax that you got to get just right. And where the laser shows on the target, that's where your bullet would impact. And back in the day, that was all the rage, man. All those lasers were all the rage. And I never did get one. I thought about it. And occasionally we see them now pop up, but they're not as prevalent. And I was asked, what is the benefit of a laser? And I think right now the benefit of a laser is going to be for a training tool. If you've got a laser, if you want to get a laser, whatever, that's really good if you have a laser on your gun, to dry fire. Turn that laser on. Point it at the wall, point it at the target, press your trigger and see, does that laser move? When I break the shot, when I press that trigger, take that trigger press, does that laser dip down really quickly, right? Or can I hold that laser completely still, press the trigger and break that dry fire shot without that laser moving? Because that is the goal. And I really think it's a good training tool. In fact, I wasn't the first guy to come up with the idea, I'm sure. If you want to think so, you can think that I was. I'll take that accreditation. But when I first started this it's probably more like 14 years ago now. When people had lasers, they'd come in, hey, I have a laser. Can I turn my laser on? Everyone thought it was cool. Like, I'm the guy with the laser. I'm going to turn that laser on. And usually what happened was they shut it off rather quickly because as an instructor, I learned that, hey, yeah, turn your laser on because I'm going to be able to see exactly what you're doing and you're going to be able to see exactly what you're doing. And flip that laser on. They'd go out there, they'd be holding on the bullseye of the target, they'd press that shot to take a live fire shot, and that laser would go dip. Sometimes it'd dip a little bit, sometimes it would dip clear down to the bottom of the target and back up again, and that just shows that you're flinching, right? And they learned that, so with this laser on, every time I take this shot, everyone's going to see that I'm flinching, and I said, yep. So the laser never stayed on for very long, but because people, it was the tell. It would tell you exactly, and tell everyone who cared to be watching, who cared to pay attention, exactly what was happening. So it didn't let you get away with anything. So to this day, and I haven't had it in quite a while, someone's like, can I turn my laser on? Sure, turn your laser on, man. Turn your laser on, because it's like a like a co-instructor, man. It's like a vice instructor. It's there to help me. You think it's cool. That is like a little instructor on your firearm because you're going to turn it on. You may not believe me. You may not understand what I'm saying. I'm saying you're flinching. I'm saying, let's slow your trigger press down. You're like, I am. And then that laser is going to show you otherwise. And so as an instructor, yeah, cool. Put a laser on your gun and bring it to class. It's going to do nothing but prove my point and help me out. So we talked about how lasers kind of went to the side, right? Lasers were mostly meant for people that had a couple of reasons. People that had a struggle with their eyesight, right? The older crew, the older shooters, and that was a fix. Like that really was a fix. And it was actually advertised. I remember those old Crimson Trace commercials. You could probably find some on YouTube somewhere where they would show, right? They were like on a dark range. There was a car there, and they showed the guy like fall to the ground, and he was able to take cover behind the car or take cover while he was laying on his side. He was take cover under the car, and he was able to drive his gun out with the laser on and situate that laser. The laser was sitting in, on the center mass of his target, of the person, right? The bad guy, the target dummy, whatever they were using. And he was able to take that shot without actually holding the gun and being able to having to line those sights up because that laser was where it needed to be. And they, your bullet will hit where that laser is. Well, you have to line everything up. There's a parallax involved, so there's a little more to it than that. But it was a neat concept back in the day, right? And it looked cool. Like who didn't want a laser on their gun? So now what we have come to is, the use of optics on guns. So like red dots or green dots, whatever I call them red dots. That's just a generic term for all of them, right? So that has kind of come in and that has taken over, and people use those instead. You got a failing eyesight? Let's check out the optic. Let's shoot an optic. Let's see how it works for you, right? And it tends to help a lot of people out. So I want to say that your optics have your red dot optics on the guns, on the firearms, have since kind of taken over and made lasers kind of obsolete. You can still get them. It's still usable. But you just don't even see advertisements for them anymore. That's just, they've kind of gone the way of the dodo bird. That's what we're going to say. They've kind of gone the way of the dodo bird. So anyhow, that's one of the, optics and lasers and carry ammo, defensive ammo. Those are the kind of discussions that we had. And it was really good, but we finished up today. Everyone did a great job shooting in the 35 plus mile an hour freezing cold wind. Time everyone got done, hands were cold, faces were red, noses were running. It was a whole thing. But it was a good class, and I look forward to the next one coming up next month. I believe the next one's going to be on like February 8th, I believe. I'd have to pull my calendar out and really take a look, but I think that's when the next one is. Next month, I also fire up the women's and men's academy, so I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, we can struggle through. I say struggle through because it's not really struggle. It's good information. We'll start those classes off with, obviously, like I do every year, with some classroom, classroom nights, because of the cold. Sorry, yawning. I'm not even going to cut that out. This is real life, people. You got my yawn. I apologize for that. But they're going to start with classroom sessions because it is too dark and too cold until that time change, in which we will get outside and make our way out to the range and do some live fire. So. That was rude of me. It's my podcast even bores me. So kudos to everyone that listens to it. My podcast even bores me. Looking here at my list. What do I got going? So I was perusing social media, which I do quite often, and I found that Sig has a recall on their their Romeo, looks like their Romeo S, Romeo 5, Romeo S, I believe. Red dot optics on their guns. It says 6 Hour and cooperative with the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission is recalling the Romeo 5 red dot sight manufactured in 2023 or 2024. This recalled firearm sight poses an ingestion hazard because the product contains CR2032 button cell battery that can easily be accessed and do not bear the required warnings. In addition, there is a button cell battery provided in the retail packaging, which is not in a child-resistant packaging. When button cell batteries are swallowed, the ingested batteries can cause serious injury. So because there's people out there that might grab a battery out of their red dot, those Romeo red dots, they might eat them. There's a chance that someone's going to eat that and ingest it and put it in their mouth. SIG is having a recall. If you want more information, you can head to their website, I'm sure, and find information on it. This is absolutely ridiculous because there's not a warning on there, written on there. They have this recall. That's kind of funny, actually. I've actually got one of those. My wife has one of those on her firearm, I think. I know it's a Romeo of some kind. I got to look and see exactly which model of the Romeo it is. Find out when it's manufactured. Check out the serial numbers, whatever I got to do. I may have to send that baby back. If I do, it'd be awesome just to get a refund. If I sent that back and was able to get which I don't think will happen, but get like a cash refund, I'm putting her a Holosun on there. Like, we're going to get away from this Sig Romeo bullcrap. I'm going to throw her a Holosun on there. But I don't think I'm going to get cash. I think if I do it, they're either going to fix something, send me a cap that I can replace on there that's got a warning on it, or a new sight. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I got to delve into this. In fact, that's on my to-do list for the afternoon. Let me look here. I was doing some thinking, and I'm thinking about this year possibly taking. So let's talk about this real quick. I talked to a gentleman the other day who has done this in the past, and he's got to do it again. And he was explaining how it works, and I kind of have a pretty good idea how it works. I've never actually done it myself, but in the state of Idaho, since a lot of people travel through Oregon or to Oregon to get anywhere else, right? Typically, when I go to Oregon, I can't carry my gun. But there is a way that Idaho residences can get a non-resident concealed carry permit for the state of Oregon. And I'm thinking about possibly doing this. I got a trip planned later on this year in the middle of the summer down there, and I thought maybe I'll look into seeing how I do this so I can be prepared for my trip. I know there's a few things that we got to get. I think there's like a letter stating that you've had some kind of mental health check, or that you're good, or you're in good standing. I got to look into that. Some other things you got to get. And I think if you have your Idaho enhanced permit, I think that training is still good enough that you can use that to get your non-resident permit. I think the key from what I hear is that you do have to go to a neighboring county. So a county in Oregon that, borders the state of Idaho, with a sheriff that is pretty friendly to that sort of thing. And I've heard some rumors about which ones to go see and which ones not to. So I got to look into that some more, make an appointment, take your stuff in, and get, sorry, I dropped something there. And then apply for your non-resident permit. And so I'm thinking about doing that. But then I'm also thinking about, obviously, if you do this, you got to obey all those carry laws in the state of Oregon. And a few years ago, they had this thing come in with firearms, and they didn't want this in their state, and certain semi-autos and certain round counts. And I kind of lost track of, there was lawsuits involved when they tried to bring this bill to light. And I'm not real sure how that went over in that state. I'm not sure exactly what the rules are now. I think I can still get a carry permit, but what can I carry? What can't I carry? I don't want to run into any issues or problems. And so what I'm putting out a call right now. If there's someone that listens to this podcast within the sound of my voice, right? I would love to get someone who lives in Oregon, who knows, not just you kind of know, right? Who actually knows the ins and outs of the carry laws in Oregon as far as what I can carry, round count, mag, whatever, what kind of guns can I carry? Maybe there's some that I can't. If you live in Oregon and you listen to the podcast and you want to be on the show, I will bring you on the show because I'd like to talk to you about this. It's good information for a neighboring state. I get questions about Oregon all the time. And I always tell people, hey, I can keep track of Idaho. I can't keep track of all these other states. I'll tell you what I know. I know someone in the past has listened to the podcast, corrected me on a few things when I was discussing stuff about Oregon. And so if they're still listening or someone else is, get a hold of me. Shoot me a message on Facebook, on Instagram. So under Patriot Defense, you probably know where to find it. Give me a call. Shoot me a text. Area code 620-794-6223. It's area code 620-794-6223. Let me know. I'd sure like to talk to you about those carry laws. You could just I either want to get some information from you if you don't want to come on the podcast. But what I would like to do is get you on the podcast. We can set up a phone number. When I'm doing my podcast, you can call in. We'll record it. We will hide your identity if we need to. I don't know why we need to, but if you would prefer, we could do that. You don't even have to be on the podcast, but if you feel like it, we'll just get you on the podcast if that is okay with you. And we can just ask those questions. In fact, I'll bring 2 or 3 other people in here, and we'll just ask those questions, and we'll get a lot of this information straightened out. I'd like to do, if I'm going to do that, I'd like to do it this month or even, before the end of February, sometime relatively soon, if we could make that happen. So reach out to me. I just gave my info. All the contact info as well is going to be in the show notes that you can access by going down below wherever you get your podcast at. If you could get a hold of me, we'll get you on. I think that would be some really quality info for the people locally that kind of listen to the podcast, or anyone else who might be traveling to Oregon. So hit me up. We'll take care of that. So I am also looking at my list here, and we had a question yesterday, and this is something I don't know if I've talked about on the podcast or not. We're going to delve into it just a little bit. And so this may vary. I think this is probably pretty universal across the states, but some states maybe not. But, anything that I talk about mostly when I talk about carry laws is typically going to be pertained to the state of Idaho, which is obviously where I reside. And that's what I know best. So this is how I'm going to talk about this subject. We, in every permit class, and in fact, in a lot of my classes, we talk about if you're in a defensive shooting, we talk about where to shoot. We shoot center mass, right? Why do we shoot center mass? We go over that. And then we talk about what to talk to law enforcement about, or what to tell law enforcement about when you have to use your firearm, like when they show up, right? Why did you shoot someone? Well, you shot at them. You had to defend yourself. You shot them to do what? You shot them to stop the threat, right? That's what we did. We had to shoot them to stop the threat. We didn't shoot to kill them, because that's premeditated murder. We shot them to stop the threat. Now, if they die in the process, that's just a byproduct of being shot with a gun. It is. Now, I had a gentleman, and he listened to this podcast, and I want him. I don't have his name in front of me. I can't remember everyone's names all the time. And if he listens to this podcast, I'm not picking on him, but I want to thank him for asking these questions and making me think this is something I should cover in the podcast, because he had some good questions. And I don't remember exactly how he phrased it, but his deal is like, yeah, he wants to defend himself. He wants to stop someone, but he also wants to be, I can't even think of the word. I'm not good with words, but he wants to, I can't remember the word that he used, but he actually gave me a bunch of ammo that he wasn't using, and I do appreciate that. So shout out to him. But he talked about how he wanted to be compassionate, right? Yeah, he needed to defend himself, and he had to take the shot, but he didn't want to shoot him any more than what he absolutely had to, right? He wanted to show some compassion. That's an interesting thought. And I think that happens, that is probably in a lot of people's minds. Like when they think about defensive shoots, right? Nobody wants to go out and kill someone. They just don't. Like, that's not on your plate every day. You have a firearm just in case you have to to defend yourself. And if they die, they die. But I don't wake up, and no one wakes up, or they shouldn't. I'm sure there is people that do, and a lot of those people are in federal prison. And if you think this way all the time, there's probably something wrong with you. But no one wakes up in the morning, not an average person. They don't wake up in the morning and go, I want to kill someone today. Right? That's not a thing. But when you are in a defensive shooting, right, you're going to have to shoot someone. And there is, like I said, a good chance that they are going to die. Now, this gentleman was like, well, I just want to shoot him once, right? Well, you're going to shoot him as many times as it takes to stop said threat. And if that's 2 times, great. If that's 1 time, great. If that's 6 times, fantastic. I'm here to tell you right now, I think that if you are in a defensive shooting, there's a good chance, right, that if you have to use your firearm, you're going to shoot more than once. You're probably going to shoot 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 times, and there's a good chance you're not going to realize you've even shot that much. Right? The adrenaline is through the roof. Your heart rate is up. There's some things taking place. You're trying to survive, and I don't know that you're actually going to be able to pay attention necessarily to how many times you shoot someone. It is what it is. You don't want to shoot them once and stop and see if that stops them, right? You're going to shoot till the threat is over. So essentially, you're going to shoot at them. Hopefully, you're hitting them, right? You're going to shoot at them until they turn and leave, which deems what? Which deems the threat is over. They've turned around. They are headed out the door, headed down the road, running away from you, across the parking lot, whatever it is. The threat is over at that point. You don't start lobbing shots at them as they're running away from you. Or you're going to shoot them till they fall down, right? Till they fall to the ground. Now, just because they fall to the ground, we're going to get into this right now, but just because they fall to the ground doesn't mean necessarily that the threat is over. But that also doesn't mean that bang, 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 you shot them 4 times, they fall into the ground, and you lower your gun, aiming at them while they're on the ground, and then just finish off the rest of your magazine into them as they're laying there. Essentially, once they fall, the threat is over, but only possibly, maybe only for a second or a couple of seconds, right? And let's talk about why. I'm going to tell you right now that a handgun is a wholly somewhat ineffective tool to kill someone. And that's not why we're shooting, and we're shooting to stop them or stop the threat. If they die in the process, great. So to stop someone with a handgun, right, and you're shooting defensively, it's about multiple shots. So shooting defensively is about how quickly can I get as many shots as I possibly can downrange and on the target. And if you're good and you train, you can get quite a few typically. So bang, 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 the person falls, right? You're going to shoot them till they fall, till they're no longer a threat. Well, think of a person. So when a person falls down after being shot, why do they fall down? Because they're essentially got holes in them and they're losing blood pressure. You are draining the body of blood, right? So they're losing blood pressure. So me, we'll say I'm 6'1", maybe 6'2" on a good day, but let's say I'm 6 foot, just for sake of ease of saying. I'm 6 foot tall. I'm a 6 foot tall column of water. I'm going to shoot them up in the center mass, probably in the chest area, maybe up around the neck, the upper chest area, right? Let's say that's where I hit them. Right, they're going to bleed. That's going to lower that blood pressure. Boom, they pass out or they fall over. Right? What the thoughts are, they're just going to bleed out. And there's a good chance they will. But boom, 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 I shoot them. They lose blood pressure. They fall down. All of a sudden, that 6 foot column of water, as it's laying on its side, has now turned into a column of water that's 1.5 feet tall instead of 6 feet. Does that make sense? It's longer, but it's only 1.5 feet tall now. So that blood pressure could actually spike back up. They could become a threat again in an instant. Maybe not for very long, but as they're laying there, they can come to and become a threat again. So if you shoot someone 3 or 4 times, 2 times, or that magic number 1 that some people want to shoot them, and they fall to the ground, that doesn't mean you reholster your firearm. Bang, 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 they fall to the ground. You stay ready. You stay positioned. You have the gun trained on them. But that doesn't mean you're still shooting. They move. They make a move for their gun. They start to bring up their firearm, whatever it is. If they come back to, then put a few more into them, right? The key is you have to be able to explain to law enforcement why you did what you did. That's the thing, right? you can't be, I hate to say this, you got to you can't, if you're going to use a gun for self-defense, like, you can't be timid. You either use it or you don't carry a gun. You don't get the gun. You don't take one shot and go, is that enough? It's not the way it's going to work. You're going to have to, you're fighting for your life. You're going to do what you need to stay alive, right? And this is good, though, and I'm not picking on this gentleman because I think, I watched him shoot. He's a pretty good shot. He was shooting really good, but this is something that obviously most people don't experience, having to use their firearm for self-defense, right? And life is valuable. Like, it really is valuable, and we don't want to take it, but we do want to protect ourselves and our loved ones. And if you're going to carry a gun, you've got to be okay with the fact that there's a good chance if you have to shoot someone, they're going to die. Like, they're going to die or they're going to be severely wounded. You just have to be okay with that fact. And if you're not, you probably shouldn't carry a gun. Not saying that this gentleman shouldn't carry a gun. I mean, he's not one of those people, and I am not picking on him. I'm just using something he brought up because it's a really good conversation point. And I hope I kind of opened his eyes to the fact. I hope he was understanding, what I was saying in this aspect. Because it is a thing. It is a thing. If you shoot someone, you have to know right now that there's a good chance they're going to be hurt, and there's a decent chance they're going to die. And it's either going to be them bleeding out on the parking lot, on the ground in the parking lot in front of you, or they're going to be bleeding out in your house, on your kitchen floor, in your living room floor, while your wife and kids gather around, are standing there waiting for law enforcement to show up. I mean, that's the way that this is going to be. And we have to be okay with that, because will it affect us? Yes, it's going to affect you. There's no doubt about it. But you have to understand that now, that that's what this is going to be like. You don't have a gun, draw the gun, and magically bad people are just going to leave you alone. That doesn't always happen. There's a decent chance that, well, here's the thing. If you carry a gun and you draw your gun in an act of self-defense, be prepared to shoot that gun. You don't always have to, but be prepared that you're going to have to. Get right with that in your head right now, because you may have to put a bullet into someone. In fact, plan on it. And if you don't have to, you came out on the other side, good. It all worked out. And I hope that's the way. I hope you never have to draw your gun. I hope you're never in a self-defense situation, right? Because it will affect you. Even if you don't fire that gun. I've drawn mine twice, and it to this day, when I tell the stories, I just relive it. I get shaky. I can feel my heart rate go up just telling you a story from like 15 years ago. Right? I can feel it all over again. Like, it affects you that deeply. And I never had to press the trigger. I never had to pull that trigger and actually put a bullet in someone or shoot somebody. I was prepared to. I was there in an instant where I was like, it's going to be me or this person. Or it's going to be, that was one of the instances. The other one, it was going to be me and my daughter or this person. And I'm going to do everything I can to protect me and my daughter. And if it means I have to shoot someone, I definitely will do so. I was prepared to do it. I was close to doing it. So that's the kind of mindset that you have to be in when you're in a defensive situation. You have to have that defensive mindset. You have to have that. I think Magnum put it perfectly, right? You're the third monkey principle, right? You're the third monkey on the ramp headed up to Noah's Ark, and baby, it's starting to rain, right? You're going to have to fight like your life depends on it. You're going to have to get ugly. There are no, you do what you have to survive at that point. You punch, you kick, you bite, you shoot, you stab, whatever it is. You do what you have to do to survive, and figure it all out later. That's the way it is. Now, there's some rules and stuff that I won't say rules that you need to abide by, but there's things that the law will look at. But in that moment, it is fight or die, right? It is fight or die. And hopefully you've paid attention to everything. So if it leads up to that moment, you got a good base there, right? You've done everything that you needed to do. You're doing everything correctly, and you make it out alive, because that is the goal. But well, there you go. I think I'll wrap things up on that note. Remember, if you live in Oregon and you want to be on the podcast, I've got questions about your carrying guns and your permits and all that good stuff, and I'd love to get you on an upcoming podcast. So let me know. Again, you can, if you got questions or comments or anything, even beyond that, give me a call, shoot me a text, area code 620-794-6223. It's area code 620-794-6223. Share this on your social media. Share it with your family. Share it with your friends. And folks, I am out of here. You guys have a great week, and I'll hopefully run into you on one of the next upcoming podcasts. Bye.